hijack your segment for 1 minute. I just want to put in my perspective to all the graduates. You know, when I graduated, we did not have this platform presented to me, or maybe it was there, I just wasn't aware of it. And I think if some of you, if not all of you, were probably forced by your parents to be here today, which, you know, it's perfectly okay. I was forced to go to many dawats and gatherings by my parents, and, you know, and somehow I landed here today. I am extremely grateful to them, you know, for doing that to me. But I highly encourage you guys to please take advantage of the panels that we have here. Any questions whatsoever, you know, just please do ask. My personal advice to all of you would be, don't be so hard on yourself. I know you go to college with a certain goal. You want to become an accountant or a doctor or an engineer or whatever. But then as you learn, as you see, as you experience, your thinking changes, and maybe your career path will change, or maybe you're just so passionate, you just want to take one step higher. So this is a constant evolving process. And I'm, you know, as you just heard from Shamin Bhai, that he started off as an accountant, he wanted to do this, but he ended up somewhere else, and he's very happy with where he is today. So please don't be hard on yourself that, you know, you went to med school and then you ended up in the IT department, and it is okay. When I went to college, I wanted to learn filmmaking. I wanted to become a movie director, and then I wanted to become an accountant. Then I took classes, law classes. I wanted to become a lawyer. And I was like, you know what? None of this is working for me. I'm going to learn business. I learned business, and now I work in IT. So basically, absolutely nothing that I wanted to do, I ended up doing, but I am very happy with what I'm doing today. So don't be hard on yourself. It is okay to not have an exact career path or a goal. And, you know, I am in my 30s now, and if somebody asked me, like, what do you want to be in your life? I still don't know. Like, I don't know. This is what I'm doing. I like it. Maybe I'll do something later, or I don't know. So it is okay to be unsure. So please do ask questions if you have any. Take advantage of the platform that is being offered to you today. Run the next segment. We call him Rahat Bhai. So Rahat Bhai, it's all yours. He will take questions if you have any for our panelists that are here with us today. So floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Diti. So as Ashik Bhai mentioned, you know, big thanks to our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedule to be here with us. Obviously, a big congratulations for all our graduates. The one thing I do want to let you know is if you have questions for our panelists, you know, please put it in the chat section of the Zoom. It's at the bottom. That way I can assign it to the panelists so that they can answer your questions. The one thing I urge you to take advantage of is obviously asking questions. What we have done is really aligned the panelists to be here based on which universities you're going to and what your career interests are. I think the majority of you are either at Temple and UD. We have professors from both places. We also have professors from the other places that I think I saw some of you are going to attend, like Rowan University, UPenn, etc. So this is going to be a really great opportunity for you to ask questions. So please take advantage of that. The other thing I want to mention is, you know, once you go out into the real world, I think college is still a bubble, so you're not in the real world yet. But one of the things that you're going to hear a lot is it's all about who you know and not always what you know, right? So for those of you going to Temple, if there's a professor from Temple right here, you want to take advantage of him, right? So that you're able to leverage that connection. You know, same thing, you know, if you're going to UD, you know, we have people from UD here, you know, take advantage of that. This is going to come in really handy, and it's going to be good practice for you once you go out in the real world, that it's a lot of success in life is dependent upon your ability to network and leverage those networks. So with that being said, you know, as we wait for the questions to come into the chat session, I do have some, you know, generic questions to kick us off with. So Kausar, I'm going to kick off with you. I was reading your bio, obviously very impressive. But one of the things I noted is you do a lot of work, you know, outreach work with educators as well as students. So this year obviously is a little bit different from other years, as DT and everyone else mentioned. So what are you hearing from the educators with regards to, you know, students as they're preparing to go to college in fall in this new unknown?
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I want to thank the BADV organization for arranging this very special event. Congratulations to the class of 2020 graduates. I want you to, I echo Diti's sentiment that it is important that you focus on the good that is happening and not the bad. And at the end of the day, this might only be like 1 or 2% of the years you're going to live. So when you look at this many, many years later down the lane, you'll just feel like, oh, it was only 1 year. So don't let the year get you down. As engineers and scientists, we are the ones who are going to solve this problem. We are working hard. um, for the graduates, this is a challenging year, but as engineers, we always have to look at critical thinking skills and solve problems. That's literally the essence of an engineer. We are given a challenging problem and we have to figure out how to work on it. So this year is a little different for our outreach programs that we run for getting students from the K-12 system to get excited about careers in engineering. I run a program called Engineers on Wheels. And this year so it's the abbreviation becomes EW, right? So we actually are launching a program called the VIEW, Virtual Engineers on Wheels. And this program actually allows us to travel to the K-12 school districts to get students excited about careers in engineering. So we have, like I said, the very essence of engineering is to take a challenge and come up with an innovative solution. So we are running a virtual Engineers on Wheels program this fall to get students and children excited about careers in engineering.
Great, Kaustarapa, thanks. One other thing I do want to pick your brain on. Obviously, we hear a lot about diversity. It's foremost on everyone's mind. One part of that is obviously gender equity also. So as we look in the workplace, I think we can clearly see that there's a disparity in terms of, women engineers, right? Can you maybe share some of the things that you guys are doing both in your university as well as, outreach programs to encourage more women to go into fields like engineering where they're usually underrepresented?
So thank you for that question. I do want to emphasize that the underrepresentation of women in engineering is not a sign that the women are not qualified to pursue a degree in engineering, because sometimes society thinks that, oh, women cannot be engineers because they don't have the brains. And that is not true. The larger problem for women, for those of you who don't know, right now in America, the women in engineering is at 20%. And for electrical engineering and other disciplines is even less. I'm in civil engineering, so for us the national average is around 20%. And the sad news is that other professions have moved on to 50% women in medicine or business or law. Engineering still lags behind, and a lot of the problems, like I said, is not that we don't have enough qualified women, but it is more that society puts a pressure that it is a male dominated profession where women might not thrive. So the problems that we see is that when you see, I will bring up Big Bang Theory, which is a very popular TV show. As funny as the show is, it kind of stereotypes that pretty girls don't go into engineering. That was one of the messages there. And engineers are extremely geeky. They don't have social skills, et cetera, et cetera. So society puts this weight on the engineering profession where people think we are just these nerds who sit behind a cubicle all day. We don't have good social skills, et cetera, et cetera. And that is the part that actually is detrimental to women pursuing a career in engineering. The other thing also is, and I address the Asian parents, many Asian parents actually push their children to go into jobs that will pay a very high salary, like medicine or law. And if your pursuit is for finances and money, then probably engineering might not be a profession for you unless you own your own company as an engineer and you make a lot of money. So I'm in academics. So making money is, I'm sure Farooq Bhai will also agree with me on that, that when we become teachers or educators, we are not actually in the quest for making a lot of money, in all honesty. So I think sometimes we don't see a lot of Asian kids now coming into engineering. They prefer to go into business or going into medicine because the salary are very disparate. I'm a strong believer of you have to follow your passion, something that you love. Engineering is extremely creative. So for the women who are listening or, today, I do encourage you that if you have great skills in math, physics, and chemistry, which are kind of the building blocks for an engineering student to be successful, it's a challenging profession, but it is a lot of fun. It's very creative. As a civil engineer, the things that we do, it defies time. If I build the Taj Mahal, it will stay for many, many years, even when I'm gone. If you look at the Ben Franklin Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge, these are iconic structures, and civil engineering is a creative profession, and whatever you do in that profession is here to stay. So it's not the lack of talent, but it's more like the social pressure that the job is not good, or, it's not a good profession to pursue.
Yeah, thank you so much, Appa. Farooq Bhai, I think I'm going to turn to you next. Obviously, you teach a lot of undergrad at Swarthmore College. Maybe you can pick up on that and speak a little bit about, what your college is doing again in terms of getting more representation from women to go into fields where they're underrepresented, like engineering. Farooq Bhai, you are on mute.
So as Kausar had pointed out, and rightly so, that there are societal aspects which prevent many women from many girls, I should say, from going into engineering. So one of the things that I might point out to people who have younger children and the younger population who are, might one day marry and have children on their own, is that one of the critical areas, times when it is very important to pay attention to your daughter's education will be the time when they're in middle school. That's when they get what you call misdirected towards things that are analytical. They're told that they can't do math. They're told that they're not as good as boys in math. And I found that's quite far from the real truth. And so it's at that age that we have to pay attention to, rather than when they're already in high school. So if we could encourage, and that's why it's wonderful that Kausar has taken up the what do you call this banner, and to go into this outreach business with young children. There are, the society, to a certain extent, mostly foreigners actually, they think that, oh, okay, I want to ensure that my family, my children will have a stable financial income. We always look backwards. We see what is happening, what has happened in the past, but none of us can foresee what's in the future. So it is premature to prefigure or try to configure your children's future by putting them into specific professions that are obviously high paying, but that are also very much a lot of negative aspects to it that none of the Bengali families talk about, which is the burnout aspect, which is the stress aspect, which is the number of other things that I could mention, but I will not go into that to frighten our young adults who may want to go into medicine. But there are aspects of it that as parents, we should always think about. And again, this is my personal viewpoint as far as choosing a profession is concerned. I think you should try to follow where your heart is, where your passions are located. You may be more successful in that area than you think. At the same time, I'm not going to say that be rebellious with your parents and, don't follow what they want you to follow. You should try to explain to them what your passions are, why you want to study a certain subject, and what do you plan to do with your career. You might be able to persuade your parents that, hey, that may be the right path for my daughter or my son. The second question Faisal has asked, Rahat has asked, is the question of what we as small colleges do. So I represent the small college segment of higher education. And one of the things that when parents come to visit us, I tell them, look, if you see your child as someone who thrives in the crowd, who is very tough and can, go join the rough and tumble of college, then by all means, and if they're smart, send them to the best college, best universities, large universities that you can find or you can afford, okay? But if your child is a little more introspective, they need a lot more care, nurturing, then it is better to send them to a small college. They will thrive and do a lot better. You would be surprised what our success rate, small college rate, success rate is sending to medical school. The small colleges boast a much higher percentage than any large institution of sending, children or their students or graduates to medical school. So it's a percentage, not the numbers, because small college population is quite small. The other thing is that they learn to get to their full potential when you are in a place like a very large place like all the state universities and so on. If you are not the kind of person who is very dashing and pushing and can go to the front, you will never make it to the front because you will be crushed. Okay. On the other hand, if such a child is sent to the smaller schools, they will actually live to their or rise up to their full potential. They will have the ability to grow. They'll have the ability to, they'll be nurtured properly, and they will have enjoy their 4 years in college much more than if you had sent them to even some of the best, universities with very large populations. Because in the larger population, you're just a number. No, very few people will know you. You can barely do anything in that. You cannot even enter the gym sometimes because of the pressure. Okay, so think about, small is beautiful. Small is the place where your child wants to go. But as I said, the option is if your child is tough enough to go into a larger place, by all means, send them there. They will thrive there. Yeah. So that's the second advice I have for all of you. The third advice is in terms of encouraging women into the professions, okay, beyond what I said, is that ask at the institutions what their percentage of female students are in a class. Because if the ratio is well below 33%, the women will not have a chance to answer questions in class, will not have a class to show to the professor that they can do as better as the guys in the class. It's a very difficult situation. I see, even in a small college, I sometimes see that, okay? And as a professor, we all make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to ask questions, to come to my office. And if someone doesn't show up, I actually follow up through questions. Well, if you need to come and see me in my office. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I think is very important as a parent when you visit institutions. Okay. So now for all the women here in the audience, some of them are there. I saw at least 3 women going to Temple University. Temple is a very large place, okay, but their engineering program is somewhat smaller than most state institutions. So you might be able to do okay in engineering if you choose to go to that profession.